Bonjour, bonsoir. Bonjour pour les travailleurs. Ah non, c'est bonjour pour les chômeurs et bonsoir pour les travailleurs, comme disait l'un. On est reparti pour What Remains of Edith Finch, avec mon anglais si génial. Et ça fait bien 2-3 semaines que j'ai pas joué, donc j'ai juste regardé la fin de la partie précédente, et donc on avait terminé avec Walter dans la cave, le survivaliste. Et donc maintenant on est reparti. On avait fait tout le tour dans le cimetière. Et là on vient de rentrer dans la maison par le balcony. Attendez une petite seconde. Ah, shit.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Hmm? Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. The camera's older than you are.
You're right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though.
Alors de quoi est-ce que je dois prendre des photos? C'est tout et n'importe quoi ou...
Aw.
Des petits osios. Ah, à mon avis. Ah, je suis en train de gâcher la pellicule.
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee.
Hmm.
Hey!
That's a keeper.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years. Dawn, don't you think you could find something more interesting to photograph? Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip.
Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. Great shot, Dawn! I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay? Sorry, Don, just gotta reset the timer.
Ah, ok.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so-
normal, Don. Just focus on the camera. Try not to pick it back.
Dad!
Oh merde. Trop pourri. C'est vrai que j'ai oublié qu'il...
That's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
J'avais oublié qu'il mourait. Enfin, j'avais pas oublié, mais... qu'il mourait en fait. Ah merde. C'est dans l'œil. Misère. Ouais. Attends, c'est con quand même. Ça... Ah merde. Oopsie doopsie. Lemon squeezy.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
T'as la poupée qui fout les boules. Non, c'est pas une poupée, mais... Ah oui, c'est le tronc d'arbre, le fameux. Ouais, ils ont chacun leur tête
I can't
Peint
imagine
dessus.
my mom ever writing poetry and yet
peinte dessus. Et par la bière, hein. Putain, mon style dans l'œil.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea.
Ah, je-
Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom, were the words that I
I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined and as a sign held up his middle finger. The wind picked up and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent.
ça c'est un cerf-volant de combat, ça.
The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made.
Ah, mais c'est le seul.
Thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
Ah bah ouais, ça va être un cerf-volant de combat.
I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea and foam. But I didn't. Until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Watching over Gregory, it's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like. He reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was he saw, it sure made him happy.
Oh. Incroyable. C'est trop marrant. Je suis pas très doué, mais c'est trop marrant.
I know how silly it sounds. That I worried about the baby being too happy. But I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Damn it. Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
Par contre, si la banane comme on continue à bouger, C'est qu'il y a de l'électronique ou quoi là-dedans, hein, sinon il y a un problème, madame. Et mettre ça dans le bain du petit, c'est peut-être pas la meilleure idée. Hein.
I wish she could have told us.
Et c'est reparti pour un tour.
There's so much I don't understand about Gregory, about everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy. He want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love,
Voilà.
Sam.
Donc faites toujours attention au siphon de la baignoire parce que c'est très violent. Ça vous aspire le pied et puis tout le reste. Putain, mais c'est trash quand même. Bon, parce qu'on peut pas tuer un des bébés. Encore heureux. Même dans les jeux c'est pas autorisé hein. Et c'est pas plus mal mais du coup on saura jamais vraiment comment il
My
est
mom
mort
moved
lui.
up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
Putain ça me pas la chambre. Enfin. Si ça découpe. Ouais. Non, partager la chambre à trois c'est pas terrible mais bon.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay. Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Lewis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. And to see kids in the house again. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal.
Une petite gerbille.
But it didn't last.
Great job.
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Je suppose qu'on ira par là par la suite. Ah, ou c'est peut-être par là que je devais aller en fait. Che bazar.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Inception.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Les histoires sont de plus en plus courtes par contre. Hein.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. I think Edie was happy to finally have another painter in the family. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room, until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on. He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch. Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. He took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on. In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. queen was on her own quest for radiant rainbows. He followed the sound of her silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Oh, putain, c'était bien. Autant au niveau du mini-jeu que de l'histoire. Conquis. Même si c'est un peu triste dans le fond.
Began to forget the world we know.
Je comprends le bonhomme.
I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
Ah, c'est sûr que ça donne pas envie.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions.
Merci, merci. J'ai fait tout ça pour vous. Ouais.
Including the wise Calico, who insisted on inviting him.
Mes nobles sujets.
His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do.
J'ai l'air d'être un bon roi. Moi j'aime pas ça du tout. Inoubliable dans la trancheuse à poisson.
Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Ah bah celle-là était vachement bien.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him. On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
Ça me rend triste. C'est tout, enfin c'est pas triste mais ça me touche. Tout ça. C'est vraiment bien foutu comme truc.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
To our final night together, and all our final nights apart.
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
Ah. Après, je peux pas passer, moi. Ah, ok.
The thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your story. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground.
Nous, on l'a déjà vu.
An earthquake
Enfin,
out
de
in
loin.
the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. No, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it. Let go. I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone.
Ah, j'en ai la larme à l'œil, putain.
Last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself.
Ah ouais, c'est un nouveau-né. Enfin, je suppose.
But I guess if you're
Bah
reading
oui,
this
c'est...
now, things didn't work out that way.
J'avais un enfant, c'est juste.
This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, But I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Ne soyez pas triste que ce soit fini, mais soyez content de ce qui s'est passé, ou un truc comme ça. Du chemin parcouru. Eh ben, je suppose que c'est la fin du coup. Honnêtement, terrible. Ouais, c'était excellent. Excellent jeu. J'en ai vraiment la larme à l'œil, tout était vraiment super sympa. Ah, c'est une madame qui a contribué au jeu, quoi. Qui c'est ça? Ah oui, c'est ok. Ah, c'était terrible. Franchement, c'est touchant. C'est très sympathique à faire. Terminer toutes les histoires. Chris Bell. En plus dans l'évier, quoi. Ah, terrible. Ah, c'est trop marrant en plus de faire des petites photos comme ça. Juan. Blasé le garçon. Beau gosse. Oula. Bébé psychopathe, ça, putain. En train de calculer son coût. La coupe. Ça, c'est vraiment trop bien en vrai, de mettre les photos de tout le monde. C'est beaucoup plus sympathique à regarder que de regarder juste des noms où on comprend rien. Ça les humanise, quoi. C'est vraiment sympa. Bon, après, ils ont peut-être pas tous envie de montrer leur tête, ce que je peux comprendre. Merci à vous, la team. Bah donc voilà, c'est tout pour moi. Évidemment, je vous le conseille à tous et à toutes. Bon, après, si vous avez déjà regardé, je sais pas si ça vaut la... Enfin, Entre guillemets, si, hein, parce que voilà, mais vous avez quand même vu la plus grosse partie, quoi. Enfin, la plus grosse partie. Vous avez pas eu le plaisir de jouer au mini-jeu, mais vu que c'est l'histoire qui compte. Mais bon, rien que pour le travail. Et puis bon, vous laissez passer un peu de temps et vous y jouez de votre côté. Et bah voilà, franchement c'est terrible. Je le conseille à tout le monde. C'est tout pour moi. Ciao ciao.